Welcome, everyone. We're really excited that you're here for our March community call. We're going to give everyone about a minute to filter in, and then we'll get started. But we're excited that you're spending your lunch hour with us today. This is always a treat to get to interact with everyone and have great stimulating conversations and discover new resources, because I learn something from the members. Every time we get together, there's something new to learn. Well, welcome everyone. We're so glad you're here for the March community call for the Functional Medicine Pharmacist Alliance. And we love to open up every meeting with, oh, my slides are not advancing. Let's try this again. We love to open up every one of our meetings with a little bit of breath work together, since we know that nervous system regulation is such an important part of root cause medicine. What better way than to start our meetings with a little bit of grounding for ourselves? So if you're able to, close your eyes and breathe along with us. If not, please be safe and you can revisit this recording later. So if you're able, take a moment to sit up nice and tall. Let your shoulders relax away from your ears. And let your feet rest flat on the floor. And then take just a moment to notice your body. Notice where your breath wants to move in the chest. Notice your heart rate. Notice your temperature. And notice how you feel. And then when you're ready, draw a big breath in through the nose. And let a big sigh out. Big breath in through the nose. And then let a big sigh out. And we'll take one more big breath in. And then let a big sigh out. And then take just a moment to notice what has changed. Let your breath return to a natural and effortless rhythm. And notice your heart rate. Notice where the breath moves in the chest. Notice your temperature. And notice how you feel. And when you're ready, slowly open the eyes, bring your awareness back into the room. And I wanted to bring your attention to your temperature today, since that was a bit of a warming breath. And I learned a new breath in a breath training this weekend with Sachin Patel. And he talked about a cooling breath that he recommends for patients that are having hot flashes. And I thought this was so great. It wasn't one I was familiar with, and I wanted to share it with you today. And it's to curl up your tongue, if you're able, and then breathe in and out through your tongue, moving the air across your tongue. So give that a try in a situation later when you're feeling hot or having a hot flash. Give that a test and see how it affects your temperature, because that was a fun new thing that I learned that I wanted to share with you today. Ooh, thank you, Lauren. Shatali is the name of that breath? Awesome. Did you learn that in your yoga teacher training?
I did.
I did not learn that one in my yoga teacher training. So that's really cool.
Yeah. The yogic word for breath work is pranayama. So that's one of our pranayama practices.
Very cool. Thank you, Lauren. I learned something, as always. Well, thank you for joining us in that little grounding exercise. And now we'll get to our announcements. Boot camp kicked off this past Sunday. We had 33 pharmacists. And if you missed the deadline, don't worry. We have a late enrollment that's going to be open until the 31st. So if you were having FOMO, don't worry. We've got you. And we're excited to see you in the next session. We have a great lineup of clinical calls, as well as business information to help you get started on that functional medicine practice. And if the spring is not the right time for you, the summer cohort enrollment opens on June the 1st, and then the first cohort will begin on June the 21st, the first day of summer. Lauren, did you have anything to add to that before I go on to the next one?
I would just say if you are new here or you're like, wait, what's the boot camp? The boot camp is our 10-week mentorship and coaching program. It has business modules to help you start your practice. And then the new things we added this year are the clinical modules. So Jessica is teaching all of our clinical modules. We just had our first one. It was absolutely incredible. And so now you're really getting like a true pharmacist-specific comprehensive functional medicine training program. You also get a certificate of completion at the end of it. We're going to have virtual badges that you can display on your LinkedIn profile if you complete all the assignments that are required in it. And then we also have a new CE partner. So through Learner Plus, you can complete reflective practice activities to earn CE as you're completing your work. And that's really exciting too. So those are all the exciting things. So yeah, I'm going to be going to APHA this weekend and obviously connecting with lots of pharmacists there. So I just thought, you know what, if I meet people at APHA and they want to get started in functional medicine, I want them to be able to join us. So it's like, well, why don't we just keep the enrollment open for an extra week? Again, it's 10 weeks long. So we're just getting started. It's not too late to get in there and catch up and just watch the replay of our first couple of calls. If that's something that you are feeling called towards. So
awesome. So that skipped ahead in the slides, but I think that was a perfect segue that APHA is in Los Angeles. It's this Saturday. So go and meet up with Lauren and lots of other really great thinkers and leaders in the pharmacy space. And Lauren and Melody Hartzler and Lara Zachariah have been invited to present on a panel on pharmacists in functional medicine at IFM. So if you haven't been to the IFM conference before, what better time than to go when they have this panel of pharmacists? I think that is so exciting. And I hope that we can all really show up and support them. What else do you want to add to that, Lauren?
Yeah, it's like perfect timing because our spring boot camp is literally going to be wrapping up the week of IFM. So I'm like crossing my fingers and really hoping that we can get the biggest turnout of pharmacists to show up to IFM that we've ever had and really show them, right? Like we belong at the table. We, are a crucial part of the functional medicine picture. And it's time that we start recognizing pharmacists in this way instead of being left on the sidelines. So I think it's going to be a really great panel. And again, we would just love to have as many pharmacists as possible in the room for that presentation, just to show up and be present and be visible. And yeah, it's, like I said, it's going to be literally as we're closing out spring cohort. So I almost am like, how many people can show up? And again, we can have like a meetup and everything, which also aligns with the next thing Veronica is going to share too, for more exciting stuff that's happening in person.
Yeah. So Age-Friendly Pharmacist Badge is this great CE program that's free for all pharmacists from ASCP. And ASCP is starting a partnership with us. So we're going to have discounted memberships for their members. And then vice versa, if you're interested in joining ASCP, we have a discount coupon for that. But if you want to get a taste of what that's about, you can check out this CE, and we're going to go through it together. We're going to go through one module a week. We're going to meet on Saturdays at 10 a.m. And there's 4 modules total. And then the regional meeting for ASCP, the South Central meeting, is on April 24th, 25th. And so we could have our last discussion of the age-friendly badge and how we're going to apply it in a functional medicine lens. We could do it live in person, and I'll be presenting a functional medicine case at that region meeting. So that's really exciting. And we skipped over one other slide that I think is really important. So I'm going to go back a few. We have monthly clinical calls, and next Tuesday, April 7th. Do I have that right?
Is it next Tuesday or is it the week
Is
after?
this-
I think it's the week after. This coming Tuesday is the 31st.
Okay. I'm a little off on my calendar, but our first, it's the first Tuesday of the month, and that is going to be the scheduled time slot for our clinical calls. And we have James Maskell, who's the co-founder of True Neura. He's also the author of The Evolution of Medicine and The Community Cure, which are fantastic books. We read them last year in our book club. And so he is going to be our guest, as well as Jen Belu, an integrative pharmacist, functional medicine Pharmacist Alliance member. And is Jen our Georgia State leader? I get
Yes.
everyone scrambled.
Yep.
Okay.
She is.
Awesome. So we're going to hear from her. She's going to present a case on cognitive decline through the functional medicine lens. And it's going to be just a really great clinical content. So I'm excited for everyone to be there for that. And then we have another webinar coming up with Standard Process. It's going to be about herbalism, and Karina Toledo is going to be presenting, as well as our regional leader, Marina Buksov, who is an herbalist as well. So really exciting virtual things to participate in if you can't do the in-person things that are coming up. And so now we'll just get into the discussion. This is all of the books that we have planned for the year. When we send out the replay of this call, we're going to give you the Amazon shopping list. So if you haven't bought some of these already, you can purchase them. And we did have a giveaway. The authors of Pain-Free on Purpose and The Biology of Trauma donated books for us to give to our members. So I wanted to announce that here. Lauren, do you want to announce it, or do you want me to?
You can go right ahead.
Okay. I forgot to write it down, so I got to open up my Slack. I used a random number generator and then went to that spot in our spreadsheet, and that's how I picked the winners, in case you're wondering who got the books. Sandy Kim is one of our winners. She selected The Biology of Trauma, and then Pain-Free on Purpose goes to Amelia Welsh. She is our Connecticut state leader. Yay. So thank you everyone to enter the drawing. We were really excited, and we're hoping to have other drawings later for our members to get fun things in their mailbox and participate in the discussion. So today, the book of the month is Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. I'm curious how many people had the opportunity to read it. And feel free to unmute. We want participation. You can come off camera if you're available. This is the part of the call where we want to hear from everybody. That's what makes these calls so great, is when we have your participation. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can look in the chat.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in the chat so far, but if you guys are new to using Google Meet, the chat is located in the bottom right corner of the screen. There's three little icons. There's an information, the chat button, and then like a menu settings sort of thing.
So if you're not familiar with Candace Pert, she is the mother of psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneuropharmacology. She was one of the researchers that helped discover the opioid receptor. And I did not realize that was such a recent discovery. And that was really eye-opening to read about that process, how we discovered that receptor. And I wished I had read this during pharmacy school. I think I would have had a different lens going through school had I read this. Lindsay says she read about a quarter of the book. Candace seems amazing. I know. I wish, like, when people ask, Is there someone who's no longer living that you wish that you could have a conversation with? And Candace Pert is one of the people on my list of people I wish that I could talk to that's no longer walking on the earth. So, Lauren, have you had a chance to read it?
I have not. I've been so far behind in all the things. Yeah, I was really wanting to read this one, but yeah, no downtime in the last couple of months to really get in on reading books.
And if
But
you're an audiobook, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say, but I'm super familiar with the topic of psychoneuroimmunology. It's definitely one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So, Lindsay, tell us your takeaways that you had so far from the book. Oh, and I forgot to prompt everyone. Please put in the chat where you're calling in from today, because we want to help connect people if you are geographically located to each other.
Like I said, I only made about a quarter of the way through the book. I was fascinated to see how she was able to come up with the opioid receptor, that it was like this huge race, which feels like that's very much like the whole scientific discovery process throughout all of history. It's like a whole bunch of people try and do the same thing at the same time, even if they're not aware of it, because all these discoveries kind of happen in conjunction over time. So I thought that was really interesting. But I only made it to where she got the job at the NIH and didn't make it past that.
That's okay. I'm glad that you were able to start and just learn about the cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
I do have a comment on the audiobook. I have not been able to locate the unabridged
I don't think
audio
there is.
version.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
I could only find audiobook in the abridged form, and you miss a lot in the abridged, and I'm sad. So this is one of the few books that I actually have the hard copy of, because I audiobook everything.
That's part of why it took me so long. I'm like, I can't get through it because I can't do the audio. So it's
Yeah.
a long time to actually sit down and read like a physical
The
book.
struggle is real. Oh. Yanling says, I haven't read it either. I wanted to say hello. I'm totally new to functional medicine. Find it very interesting. Looking forward to learning from all of you. And they're in California. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here. We'll have to make sure to connect you with our California state leader. Oh, yes. Great segue, Lauren, since you'll be in California. That's awesome. Yeah, last time we were in California, we got to meet Sandy Kim. So that was a fun surprise when she showed up at ASCP. ASCP, the annual meeting last year, was at San Diego. And that was really fun. For those of you that aren't familiar with ASCP, that's the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. And they really focus on long-term care pharmacists, senior care pharmacists, and they've got robust tools for those of us who are consultants. And so that's why we're partnering with them, because they're just long established and have great resources that cross over into what we need. Lauren and I were at San Diego last year to do a workshop with FMPhA that was all on incident to billing as another consultant model for us. So really great resources there to get connected with. And so we're excited about that upcoming partnership. And this year, the annual meeting will be in Maryland. National Harbor, does that sound right? I keep saying Ann Arbor, but that's Michigan.
Yeah, Ann Arbor's pretty cool. University of Michigan's based there.
I have not been. Guide Point Pharmacy is Sandy. She's new and she's from Minnesota. We have a lot of great functional medicine pharmacists in Minnesota. So we would love to get you connected. I'm going to take some notes here. So one of the questions that I had prepared today was, where did this book challenge or affirm how you think about the mind-body connection in your pharmacy practice? Since she talks a lot about peptide generation by the body, how our thoughts influence that. And so I guess I'm curious to have a discussion. What is mind-body medicine? Or what does that mind-body connection mean to you? And what do you currently think about it in relation to your pharmacy practice? Where does it fit in? What kind of discussions are you having with your patients?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi,
I'm
Susie.
Susie. Hi. So I'm from Florida. I'm new here. I've not read the book. However, I have been incredibly intrigued by our thought patterns and the effect they have on our health and well-being. And I've been reading a ton of books on this topic. So I actually think that this is a highly overlooked aspect of treating our patients, both in the medical arena in the clinic as far as physicians and in practice as pharmacy. I don't think it's been integrated enough at all. So for example, today, I actually was speaking with a patient earlier, and she's on multiple mental health medications for chronic conditions. And she was sharing with me that she experiences some tremors. And so I was evaluating her medications, and then I was asking her about her mental health overall with all her medications. And basically she had proceeded to tell me that she has a lot going on, hasn't talked to anybody about it, has these random tremors that she can't figure out where they come from. So we had the conversation about evaluating and journaling her mind and her thought patterns to see if they're contributing to her tremors that are unspecified. So I just think that, like this book alludes to, from what I've looked at, right? I haven't read the book, but we are so chemically wired with our thought patterns, our beliefs, what we're doing, and how our body responds. So I think this is a really important part of practice that we need to be looking at closer with how we treat patients with not just medications, but lifestyle, like how we started today with breathing and those type of things. So I think that's critical to where we're at in practice today.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more that our thought life and the lifestyle pieces look different for everybody. It's really interesting to see how the lifestyle pieces even intersect with spirituality. And that's something that they talk about in the book, is these things that we think about that are tied to religion, but it's really like believing in something bigger than yourself. It's not some of these man-made constructs, and how important it is to believe in something bigger than yourself and to have a community of people with like-minded beliefs, and just the community and support that we need from other human beings. Like, that connection is crucial.
Well, and I think in that regard too, especially as women, I think we really don't always understand the importance of relationships. And that whole saying, I think everybody's heard the saying that it takes a village to raise children and so forth. And I think that aspect of the village is overlooked on all the intricacies of the village. It's also the psychological aspects of the village with different people in different walks of life that can provide you with knowledge and understanding and wisdom. It's not just carpooling and doing, dinners and all these other things. It's much, much, much deeper and richer in that aspect of even chemically and biologically on what our bodies are doing and how we're healing from experiences.
I would absolutely agree. Can you share with us what books have you read recently that really spoke to you the most on this topic? Like maybe it's something that we want to visit at a future book club, as a resource that you've read and maybe we haven't.
Sure. So I'm just going to be really vulnerable here for a minute then, because the books that I've been reading are pretty deep. So this is funny. I have some of them right here. So basically from any kind of trauma people have had. So I was reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. So this is a fantastic book. Just as far as even parents or people that are not present psychologically and not even knowing. So I was reading an article this morning about parents that can be so in tune with trying to provide for their children that they are providing financially and physically and every other way except emotionally and psychologically. And so there can be a gap there. And so that's one of the things. One of the other books is called What Happened to You. That book is written by Oprah Winfrey along with a psychologist, I believe. Very deep, kind of, if you're not in a good place with any personal trauma, it can kind of open some stuff up. So that one I would say use with caution because it's pretty deep on trauma that people have experienced. This is another great author that's really hot on the market right now. I don't know if you guys have heard it, The Myth of Normal. So he is fantastic. He's got a lot of books that are really, really good for our mind, our chemistry, and all the chemicals, the things that we release even subconsciously in our body when we go through things. So those are the most recent ones that I have around me. I've been reading and doing this work for years to be able to help people in my life that I'm around and so forth. So those are some of the top ones that I've read recently.
Thank you for sharing. I love that. The Myth of Normal is by Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
And I've read several of his other books, but not that one. So I'm going to have to revisit that one. I can't recall the one that I most recently read of his, but it was really good. It had a lot to do with ALS. It was describing a lot of the emotional patterns seen in specific neurologic disorders, and it was really interesting. Do either of you know which one I'm talking about? Since I can't recall the name of it.
I don't know. Like I said,
When the body says no. That's what it
Okay.
is. When the body says no. Has anybody else had any titles or books that they have read that are kind of in this genre of mind-body medicine and exploring that connection to our minds, our thought patterns, our community relations, our spiritual beliefs? Any resources that y'all want to share?
Well, I put one in the chat. This is Carrie.
Oh, thank you. I missed it.
It's
Thank you,
called
Carrie.
Indoor. Hi, it's brand new. It's by a physician out in California who he actually has his own little farm and he does all organic growing, and he harvests his own food and all this stuff. But he wrote this book. It's about how so many people spend, and I have neighbors that they're never outside ever. They get in their car and go to work, and then they never go outside. I mean, they come home and they stay inside, so they're never outside experiencing light and just the healthy environment outside with, trees and grass and all that. And he explains a lot of it. And there's a lot of data behind it about just getting outside, people under a lot of stress. And it's early morning and trying to get the light right, because there's a lot of data on light and how it impacts, the eyes and then the mind-body connection. And it's really a pretty interesting way to promote healing without it costing really anything, just a bit of time from people. I think you'd find it very intriguing, and so I recommend it to you.
Thank you. That sounds great. It sounds like it's very in line with this functional medicine framework where
Yes.
we've got to get back to basics and give our body good
Yep.
building blocks and the things that it needs so that it can then do what it does best, which is heal itself. But we've got to give it good inputs first.
Yeah,
So
and
I love that.
Yeah, I think just one thing to mention too is that he puts a lot of data in there. So if you have patients or people who go, yeah, sure, right, you want me outside, okay, fine, and there's, and they'll say there's no data. Or how do you know? He has a lot of data in there, so to support everything that he is advocating for. There's a data and results from some of the studies too. So it's good to see that. It's nice to actually have data about what people call like the touchy-feely stuff. And so, it's nice, and you can actually promote for patients to get out, do an early morning walk, or if they're able to, or even just, during the middle of the day, take a break for 10 minutes, just go outside and, get a break from the indoor light and everything else that they're faced with. So.
Thank you, Carrie. And tell us where you're calling in from today.
Oh, sorry, Virginia.
Thank you.
You're
We're
welcome.
glad you're here with us today, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Lauren says, learning the phrase adult children of alcoholics was a complete mindset shift for me to understand how something I thought was childhood trauma bled into my adulthood. Do you want to say any more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it just relates to the book that Susie was sharing, right? That a lot of times, I think within like the functional medicine space, I think has a more holistic approach to all of these things and understanding trauma. But even still, like it kind of gets left out a lot. And it's just sort of like the old, like Freudian approach to psychology of like, oh, tell me about your childhood. It's like, no, like a lot of this stuff, family dynamics and just interpersonal dynamics and like all of it really does affect your physiology, and it affects your health, and it affects all of these things. So I posted a link as well, since we were just talking about like the heart, mind, body connection and all of that stuff. It's something that I really hammer on in the boot camp as well, that sometimes we have a tendency to sort of leave out the emotional part, and we just think mental health is brain health, mental, but there's actually a study that I posted in there, and granted it was a mouse study, but they specifically isolated the two-way connection and communication pathways between the heart and the brain. So like we know, obviously, if you think anxious thoughts, then your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. But we also found out that your heart in and of itself can actually influence your thoughts and your emotions. So it was just, I thought it was really cool and really interesting to realize that it's like, oh yeah, like everything is in communication, right? It's not just top down as the brain is the control center. Getting back to yoga and a lot of other more ancient traditions, like they do see the heart as the seat of awareness or the seat of consciousness, not just the brain as we perceive it in a more scientific sense. So there's a lot we don't know, and I think we're learning. And finally, just having the more modern day scientific explanations to explain how all of these things work, that we might have a felt sense of understanding.
I don't know who said it, but magic is what we call the things that science can't explain yet.
Yeah.
Melanie mentions The Body Keeps the Score. Yes, by Bessel van der Kolk. Radical Acceptance. Those are all great titles. I have not read Radical Acceptance. I've started The Body Keeps the Score. Haven't made it all the way through yet. That one came up a lot in my trauma-informed yoga teacher trainings with Matthew Sanford in Minnesota. And Melanie says that she heard the author speak in the ACLM community call. So that was the author of the book of the indoor epidemic. She got to hear them speak. Very cool. What is ACLM?
American College of Lifestyle Medicine.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking, but it wasn't coming up for me fast enough.
Yeah.
Thanks. Very cool. When is their community call?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't know that they
I
had
didn't know they had one. I want to be part of these calls.
Yeah, ACLM, I have a couple pharmacist friends that are very, very involved with that organization. Bridget Sefert, I always say her name wrong. Bridget Sefferty, I always mess it up, but she's based in Arkansas and she's involved with them. And Peyton Handy is also based in Arkansas and very involved. So a little background for people who are new to the functional medicine world and like all the different terminology that gets used. You hear things like integrative medicine, right? Sort of blending conventional and alternative and all the different things. You hear things like lifestyle medicine, which has an entire organization that's entirely dedicated to it. And it is precisely what the name implies. It is changing your lifestyle to change your health. So they focus on a lot of the same principles of functional medicine, like the bedrock foundation of functional medicine is lifestyle medicine first. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, social support. Specifically, ACLM talks about limitations of risky substances and risky behaviors. So don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs. And then, yeah, basically just like finding purpose, those types of things in life. And where functional medicine kind of takes it to the next step and the next level is you have that foundation of lifestyle, but we also recognize that at a certain point, you can be doing everything possible to live the perfect lifestyle, and there are still hidden root causes under the surface. Things like mold exposure, right? That like you had no idea, or a stealth infection, or a pathogen, or a microbiome change, right? And so for many people in today's world, I find that lifestyle medicine may not be enough to get across. And that's where functional medicine comes in, and it brings in more of the modern day science, cutting edge types of interventions that we can have to really just speed up the healing process. I mean, that kind of to me is the biggest benefit of it, right? Is sure you could eradicate, pathogens and things out of your system with lifestyle alone, but it's going to take a while. Versus if you can test with a new type of test, and then you can know exactly what type of prescription or herbal supplement to use to have a targeted intervention. That's kind of the cool thing about functional medicine. So just a little background. Yeah.
So I wanted to share, there's a lot of talk about peptides in the book, and peptides are big. It's like the thing now. And so I can't wait for you guys to have discussions in the community. Our community chat is only for members. So if you want to continue the discussion, I hope that you'll join our annual membership or join boot camp, and you'll get membership with that.
Yeah, just to clarify, the community right now in Kajabi is actually specifically for boot camp. We have not opened up community access to all of our annual members yet.
I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Yes, and that's because we just built out state chapters, and the infrastructure that it takes to maintain 50 separate communities in one platform is tremendous. It is not a small investment of time, money, resources, or energy. So really and truly, our state chapter small groups in these online spaces are much more like a mastermind. which is why it is a paid benefit of our boot camp specifically, and not yet a benefit that has been opened up to annual membership. In the future, we might get to that point. But right now, that's why we're kind of on this crusade and campaign to build out our founding members of the state chapters, because we're really looking for the pharmacists who are on the front edge of functional medicine and like fully believe in it, can be ambassadors for the organization, and really like are dedicated to this, who, you know, it's like, yes, you're in, and right now you are in for life. So it's a bigger upfront investment for a long-term like commitment, payoff, and benefit. So that's where that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So my question, you know, after you guys read the book is, does it change how you see peptide medicine, and what more do you want to learn, or where do you want to invest your knowledge in this growing space of medicine? And, you know, what do you think about so many of these peptides being research only, and so they're, you know, patients are using them like in unregulated ways, and pharmacists are not necessarily part of the picture. So I would just love to have more discussion around that. And I know it really opened my eyes to think differently about peptides. I don't think that I was thinking of them as analogs to things that we're already making. I think that I was just viewing them as like, oh, this is another synthetic drug. And it was a big mindset shift for me. And definitely I want to do more learning, and it sparked my curiosity in a different way about peptides. And so I would, you know, be curious to hear what y'all think after reading it. Or if you have any peptide knowledge you want to share now.
I always have thoughts I can share, but I want to give other people a chance to share first. And Veronica, I'm curious. I want to hear more on exactly what shifted for you, because I feel like I'm in the same boat, but I didn't get a chance to read the book all the way. But I was just listening to a rabbit hole of podcasts and YouTube videos and things that I somehow stumbled down related to Mark Hyman's back surgery that he nearly died from a year ago, and the fact that he had peptides injected in Mexico and things did not apparently go well, but that is all sort of like hidden. So I'm yeah, also in the same place of like, I think that there's, you know, from a pharmacist's perspective, right, there are so many things that we need to be involved in with the discussion around this. Obviously, sterility and quality is number one. Delivery mechanisms, right? I think about Jenna Clack, who is a functional pharmacist, and she's done a clinical call for us in the past that's available in the membership, for people to watch if you're interested. She's really big in peptides and, you know, like compounded oxytocin nasal spray. I'm like, give me a nasal spray peptide and I might be willing to try it. But injectable anything is like, I need to literally be on my deathbed. And even now, after hearing a horror story of someone who was on their deathbed and like nearly died, I'm still like, or maybe I'll just not do that. And maybe that just is Mother Nature saying it's time to go. And we are tempting fate with injecting ourselves with peptides that we haven't actually gotten enough science behind to understand the safety of things. So
Yeah, I think that's my big concern with the peptides is like, we're still learning all of these metabolic pathways, and like our bodies are so complex that like this seems like a beneficial pathway, but then when we're turning it on, do we get side effects? I mean, just like with, you know, COX-1 and COX-2 inhibition, you know, we thought, oh my gosh, COX-2, you know, selective inhibition is like great. And then that, it turned out not to be, because we need the balance of COX-1 and COX-2, and we can't just push one pathway. And so what are we going to learn with these peptides? And what are the safest ways to use them? I think I'm more open to them. I guess after hearing Jessica speak yesterday on the clinical call, she said these GLP-1 analogs, they're just mimicking, they're just differing by a few amino acids of our own natural GLP-1. And I thought that was just a great way to frame it. It's just like, okay, maybe that GLP-1 can be helpful, but how do we optimize your own peptide communication, your own endogenous production of that GLP-1 peptide first, before we give you the exogenous one? And so what are the ways that we know to optimize the pathway that your body is using to make that peptide? And so I mean, I think it's great to be using our own, like, keep it as close to the endogenous molecule as possible, and support that first, and then look into these outside chemicals. So I don't know. I have a lot to, I'm still unpacking. I guess we all are. I'm definitely hesitant about injectable peptides. I'm excited to see so many peptides on FullScript that are oral. And so I feel much safer. And there's a lot of companies that I recognize. I know that, the science behind them, their third-party testing. And I feel more confident using oral peptides from those companies versus random Facebook ad. I get patients messaging me frequently like, oh, is this a good online pharmacy to use? I'm like, wait, I know nothing about them. I don't know, like, their website is not transparent. I can't offer you any confident advice about this. Please go see your local medicine shop who's compounding oral semaglutide. Please get it from them, not whoever is advertising to you on Facebook. Susie, did you have something to say? It looked like you were talking, but you're muted.
I'm just totally in agreement with you 100%. Completely. I mean, even on Facebook with my friends, some of them are advertising them and, getting their, I don't know, their percent of however many people sign up. And it's just shocking to me that, I don't know. I agree with everything you said, even the fact that I think that sometimes we get overzealous about a discovery. And so before we even analyze it appropriately, we just go ahead and run with it. And then we're like, oops, sorry about that. And the damage that we did. And so I think it's kind of scary. And I think sometimes the medical field gets a little bit overzealous without really thinking about everything thoroughly. I'm totally on the same page with you. That's where my head is shaking and in agreement. So that would be my 2 cents as well.
Yeah, I second that. I always value like complete transparency on our community calls and things. So like LEMD is the company that everyone and their mom and brother and sisters signing up for. And I've personally been invited by numerous people to sign up under them to promote peptides and, all in the name of access, right? For so long, right, these medications were too expensive. My dad's been on Mounjaro for years, and it's constantly been a battle for him to get his Medicare to cover it, or to get the pharmacy to stock it, or it's on back order or whatever, right? And he's diabetic. Like, he has a legit medical need for these things. And so at times, like, he's had to go to compounding pharmacies to get, compounded versions of things. And on the one hand, it's like, okay, sure, this is great. Like, now we have this telehealth company that is streamlining the entire process, that you can click a button and have it shipped to your house. But again, on the backside of it, with any treatment, these are still prescription drugs. These are still molecules that require oversight. And I think that there's probably going to be a reckoning at some point with these different telehealth companies that are just putting out these prescription drugs without enough oversight in terms of a true doctor-patient relationship and a pharmacist-patient relationship, right? I mean, I think all of us as pharmacists, we really need to consider what we're contributing to when we back these different, like, dispensing only pharmacy models, right? Are we literally putting our own independent pharmacy owners out of business in the name of making a couple bucks on selling a, a prescription over the internet to someone? Like, we really need to think about these things. That's my like ethical stance on all of these things right now. Because so much of the challenge that we're in right now as a profession is self-inflicted. So yeah, like, I know that goes way off into another conversation tangent than molecules of emotion, but yeah, I think my own emotional molecules get stirred up even just talking about these things.
I think you bring up a great point, and I agree, is can we encourage our patients to use local things? Like, sure, it's easy, and Facebook is really targeting them on these things, but that is hurting the local providers, the local pharmacy, and at some point we're not going to have them, and we need them. Like, we cannot be completely virtual online. There are certain things we need to have a human being that has your hands on you to give you an assessment. And I think we all know that labs, you've got to put it together with the whole clinical picture. You can't just treat someone based on labs. And I don't know, how well, if you're 100% telehealth and you never have any in-person touch points, how well can you really take care of someone in a really holistic and comprehensive manner? Because you don't even live in the community that they're in. And so, are there resources that you as the provider aren't aware of that you could refer them to because you are not in their community? There's a lot of health equity stuff that comes up there.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot of young doctors that are coming out of training have had very little hands-on with patients. There's not much of that anymore. It's shocking. And I've heard people now going to see their physicians and they're never actually touched except for maybe by taking a blood pressure or something, but not the hands-on checking your abdomen or, you know what I mean? Some of those things, checking your thyroid and things like that. They're not doing as much of that now. So where they're doing it is in places like, concierge medicine, and some of the older docs that are still out there that really learned that hands-on approach and looking at people. And I totally agree with you. I think this is a lost art that's actually going to be very detrimental to patients. And I don't see us coming out of this for a bit, and it's very worrying to me. I don't like this at all, but we're pharmacists, so we didn't get some of that training either. I'm older than most of you, so I didn't get it. But it's to me, it's a really important skill. I mean, I can look at patients when I see them in the store coming down. I could tell, and I've done this my whole profession. I can see a lot by watching them, but you can't see that online, like you said. There's no way. In a telehealth call, maybe you're just all you're seeing is the person's head. You don't see the way they walk or what else is happening with them. You can tell when someone's depressed or something's off with them, and then you can ask questions. But this is not a good thing for us going forward.
That's kind of interesting. I'd like to chime in on that aspect because I actually don't think that that's entirely the new doctors. I think it's also somewhat of current day practice. I work with primarily geriatric patients, and I hear time and time again patients verbalizing to me that their doctor doesn't really pay any attention to them at the appointments anymore.
Yeah, they're looking at their computers.
Yeah. So They
Yeah.
check in, the medical assistant or the nurse asks them the questions, takes their blood pressure, and they leave. And then the physician comes in and they'll just say hi and they'll acknowledge their name or something. And then they'll be on their computer because we've turned everything into being electronic. So they're just typing away. And I actually just had a patient the other day who said, my doctor never even looked at me during the whole appointment. And
Mhm.
so it does speak to what you're saying, because I think that if the older doctors have this tendency and they're training the younger doctors too, that's going to also pass on. So I think, and I would say that some of this might even be related to the fact that culturally wise in our country, we become more separated, both politically and because of the pandemic and the shutdown. People have really kind of stepped back. We're not as touchy. It's just a very different dynamic that we're living in today than we were 10, 20 years ago, when it didn't matter if somebody was close to you. And now when somebody's close and they even have a cough, everybody's kind of nervous. And it's just a very different kind of practice, I would say. And it is very concerning. I would completely agree with that. And if you don't feel like your doctor cares about you, what does that do to the molecules that are released in your body? What are you going to walk away from your clinic visit with? A feeling like, oh, they care about me and they're invested in my health, or wow, they didn't even look at me and they don't even care whether I die or not. And I think that's something that's really, really critically important in healthcare that's missing.
Agree.
So I guess just to finish that kind of heavy thought, one of the things that I've been continuously trying to think about, I heard a saying the other day, and it said, basically it was along the lines of, I've been blessed in my life. Who can I be a blessing to today? And so pretty much in every interaction with patients, I try to be that blessing that somebody needs throughout the day, because so many people now are so lost and so lonely. It's not just the elderly, it's also our teenagers. We're seeing the highest suicide rates ever. People are very lonely and everybody feels, I don't know what the word is. Lonely is not the depth that I'm looking for. And I think that even as all of us touch every patient every day, it would just be a call to action from me, just to make sure that you can touch somebody and make them feel like they're important and they're valued every single day, because it is really kind of, we're just seeing that desperation in people, I think, today.
Yeah, I think it's the disconnection, and then also the transactional way we do medicine today, which I think is another thing that drives me crazy. I don't like it, because now you're reduced to like, I'm paying for like just whatever it is, a blood test or this or that, but there's no relationship with that provider or any kind of long-term. So it's again, a transactional. Young people seem to think it was a great idea going to all these urgent care clinics for their care. But I think that is now not, none of these clinics out there are doing well. And maybe that's a sign that they need more, and that we need to go back to a much more relationship-based, practice. Hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think it would be great if we had medical homes, but like more holistic, where you would have a massage therapist and lymphatic drainage and red light, like all the things, kind of, I guess, like a wellness spa, plus your, primary care physician, plus your pharmacy, plus a holistic dentist. Can we have all the things in one roof and have lots of them so that you can go to the one in your community? That would be the dream, is to have these holistic medical homes, but have more of them instead of us concentrating the care in these big cities. I know we're at time, but I mean, I'll just bring up, we were talking about acupuncture, and I was talking with a physician, and she was just like, oh yeah, it's available in every corner. And I said, not in my community. I said, there is one Chinese medicine practitioner, and if he's not the best fit for you, then you have to drive to Dallas. You have more choices in Dallas, but there's still not very many. And it was, just eye-opening, like, wow, we have really unequal access to these other health modalities depending on where you live. And so it would be great to have more smaller clinics rather than these big mega clinics, I think, to take care of people. That's my last thought for the day. This was really great discussion. I'm so glad that all of you were here today. And I look forward to seeing y'all next month. Our book next month is The Biology of Trauma by Dr. Amy Apigian. So I'm really excited to read that. And I think it's a nice segue from this book and all of the discussions that we had today. I think it lines up really nicely with that. So any closing thoughts from anyone?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. This was great as always.
Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you at the clinical call.